Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to uncover the story of a small group of thinkers who wanted to completely remake society, not with a bang, but with a pamphlet. This is the story of the Fabian Society.
Okay, let's just jump right in with this because this image, it says it all. This comes from the Fabian Society's own commemorative stained glass window, a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's the perfect symbol for their whole strategy. A gentle, kind of harmless look on the outside, hiding a really radical purpose on the inside. It's the key to their entire philosophy.
You know, their very name was basically their mission statement. While other socialists were out there calling for this immediate, head-on revolution, the Fabians, they looked back at history. They named themselves after a Roman general who was famous for being patient, for strategic delay, for winning not with one big dramatic battle, but through a long, slow, persistent campaign.
So who were these cautious revolutionaries? Who were these people who got together in London back in the 1880s, totally convinced they had a better way to bring about socialism?
Well, the group kicked off in 1884, and it pulled in this fascinating kind of eclectic mix of intellectuals. Just picture it. The women who would go on to write The Railway Children, Edith Nesbit, debating socialist theory with the super witty playwright George Bernard Shaw. And then you had the powerhouse academic couple, Sidney and Beatrice Webb. Their goal? Nothing less than to rebuild society to its highest moral possibilities.
Unlike a lot of the other socialists at the time, the Fabians had a totally different and very deliberate game plan for reaching that goal. Their strategy wasn't about confrontation. It was all about permeation. And this is where you really see the contrast. It's fascinating. On one hand, you had groups like the Social Democratic Federation with all the emotional rhetoric and street brawls. The Fabians looked at that and thought it was just chaotic and, frankly, ineffective. They chose a different path. They decided to become this sort of intellectual special forces unit, a fact-finding and fact-dispensing body that was designed to influence policy from the inside out. And their method, it was brilliantly simple. It was this clear, four-step process. First, do massive amounts of detailed research on things like poverty or unemployment. Second, publish what you find in these easy-to-read, data-heavy pamphlets. Third, and this is key, don't waste your time on big rallies. Instead, go educate the powerful few, the politicians, the civil servants, the people with real influence. And the final step, permeation. Just let these socialist ideas slowly seep into the very fabric of government until they just become the new normal.
Now, this whole permeation strategy, it wasn't just some theory they kicked around in a fancy London drawing room. It actually led to the creation of institutions that are still incredibly powerful today. Just look at this timeline. In a little over a decade, their influence just exploded. Their book, Fabian Essays in Socialism, was a huge bestseller. They helped start what would become one of the UK's two main political parties, the Labour Party. And oh yeah, they also established a world-famous university. This wasn't just talk. This was some serious action.
So the founding of the London School of Economics, the LSE, where did the money come from? Well, you're not going to believe this. A wealthy supporter left the society a surprise inheritance of £10,000. Now, to give you some perspective, that's like getting well over £1 million today. And the instructions were very clear. Use the money for propaganda and socialism.
And this is the crucial part. The Fabians used that money to build an institution that would outlive all of them. As Sidney Webb himself put it, the whole point of the LSE was to fundamentally change how economics and politics were taught. See, they didn't just want to join the conversation. They wanted to build the very classrooms where the next generation of leaders would be taught their ideas. But this quiet, top-down, super intellectual approach, it wasn't a hit with everyone. This elite strategy created a lot of friction, both with other socialists outside the society and with some pretty influential members on the inside. You had guys like the famous artist and socialist William Morris, and he was one of their fiercest critics. He basically called their whole permeation tactic fantastic and unreal. He was arguing that, hey, even if you succeed in getting your ideas into government, it's just a distraction from the real fight, which is to go after capitalism directly. And the criticism wasn't just coming from the outside. The science fiction writer H.G. Wells, who was a big-name member, he eventually just got fed up. He thought the society was way too exclusive, too happy just influencing the elite. He wanted to build a mass movement, get the public involved, and he eventually walked out when they wouldn't do it. So by the 1930s, a whole bunch of things came together. and the society's direct influence started to fade. The Web's weird admiration for Stalin's Russia turned a lot of people off. The Labor Party, the one they helped create, was now so powerful that the Fabians kind of seemed redundant. They even lost their grip on their own creation, the LSE, and new thinkers like the economist John Maynard Keynes started to overshadow them.
So, if their star faded, does that mean they failed? What's the final verdict? What is their ultimate legacy? Well, here's the really wild part. One of the main reasons they seemed less relevant was because they had won. So many of the radical ideas they had been pushing for decades, things like a national health service, unemployment insurance, stuff we totally take for granted now, were finally becoming law. Their ideas, all that research from all those pamphlets, basically became the blueprint for Britain's welfare state. I mean, their DNA is literally baked into the foundations of major British institutions. It was the Fabian Sidney Webb who wrote the original Clause 4 for the Labour Party charter. That's the famous line that committed the party to socialism for most of the 20th century. So yeah, their quiet work had a very, very loud and long-lasting impact. And all this leaves us with a really fascinating question when you think about it. What actually makes a revolution successful? Does it have to be loud and sudden? Or can the quietest, most patient voices, the ones working away in committees and classrooms, end up changing the world just as much, if not more?